I just met an old friend who used to be chubby and I am completely in love with her. I, 27-year-old male, met one of my closest friends, 28-year-old female, about 2 years ago at the library and I am completely in love with her. The only issue is I'm afraid she's gonna think I'm shallow when I finally ask her out because she used to be chubby. How do I tell her how I feel without offending her? When we met, I was in a toxic relationship with my now ex. She was focusing on school, working and getting in shape, so I never really saw her romantically due to these factors, but I've always thought she was a beautiful person and a joy to be around. I'll call her Kelsey. I've told her things I wouldn't dream of telling my ex, talked for hours about anything, played board games, watched movies, went to restaurants, invited her to my book club, and just included her in almost every aspect of my life as she did the same with me, but we were rarely alone together. Nothing intimate besides hugs and jokes with friends, so never really thought of her like that. I finally had enough of the years-long verbal abuse, threatening to harm herself and mind games with my ex, when I started to realize I was spending more time with Kelsey and would sometimes forget about my own girlfriend, as Kelsey made me happy and ex filled me with dread. It was roughly 7 months ago when I broke up with her. Kelsey 2 years ago was a bit chubby and she was working really hard to get it off, so I was super supportive of her and gave her fitness nutrition tips. She has gone from 195 to 130, but her heaviest was apparently 260 and you cannot even tell she was once that size. I'm so proud of her and ever since the breakup she's all I can think about and we've been spending some time alone now. Her lips, the way she laughs, her smile, her eyes and yes her body is incredible. The fact she put in the work to lose the weight and is disciplined to keep it off while working and going to school makes her even sexier to me. She's always been there without me even asking, she would just know I needed her support in some way and I would always find a way to let her know I truly appreciated her. I had a feeling she felt the same about me, but I let a bunch of insecurities, I'm freakishly tall, been called boring, told I talk too much, hate my chin etc. stop me from telling her how I felt. A few weeks ago we were all at a taco joint with friends stuffing our faces and having a great time until a guy approached her and offered to buy her a drink. My heart sank and I immediately wanted to tell him off, she's not interested, but was able to fight it off as I knew it was irrational and I had no right. She sweetly agreed with some encouragement from the girls at the table and followed him to the bar and they started chatting. I had never been so angry, sad, and guilty at the same time about a woman. The time I've known her she's been single, except for a few dates that ended up wanting to just be casual, which really hurt her as she doesn't hook up and hasn't been intimate with anyone for a few years since she was focusing on herself. Guys and girls hit on her all the time and it's always made me irrationally upset even before I realized I loved her because they didn't know her. So I should have been happy that she was talking to this guy and seemingly enjoying herself. She was giggling, smiling, sharing nachos with him. I was unbelievably bummed so I started to head out as I didn't want to watch her flirt with this guy and cause a scene. When I got home I saw she sent me a good night text saying hope I feel better. Friends told her I wasn't feeling too hot, she was worried as I'd kinda been off and let her know if I needed someone to talk to. I fell in love again. I decided I was going to tell her how I felt as it wasn't fair to her and it was unhealthy keeping it in since I can barely form sentences around her now. I asked one of the girls if she had an idea that Kelsey might have crush on me. After explaining why I want to know, she confessed that she did indeed, yes. But apparently Kelsey told her that she didn't think I'd ever date her because she used to be fat, she's not in my league, and I probably only saw her as another sister. I was devastated I gave her that impression and almost didn't believe, but it all makes sense as to why she would think that. I've never made any kind of move on her, and I myself am a pretty fit guy, plus my ex was super skinny. I'm so afraid to make a move now that she's lost so much weight that she's going to think I only like her now because she's not fat anymore and my feelings are surface level. She means so much to me and I don't want to fuck this up. Most of my friends are saying she's going to understand and not take it personally because she knows me. Some said she's gonna think I just want to bang her now that she's hot. My sisters think I should tread lightly as she could feel like a rebound. How to approach this without coming off as shallow and potentially losing her respect. Thank you, sorry this was crazy long guys, I'm stressed. TLDR. I'm in love with my best friend that used to be chubby, but don't want her to think I only like her now that she isn't chubby. Guys, holy hell, I didn't expect this to blow up to the way it did whatsoever. It's on TikTok. And I'm currently even more mortified, but it's so worth it. I'll also be answering some comments to clear up some things. T-Doctor at the bottom. After coming back to these comments and messages over and over, I realized I was severely overthinking everything, making things way harder than needed, and came to the conclusion that I didn't need to bring up such a sensitive topic in the first place, just to tell her how I feel, especially since she didn't confess that to me directly. I just needed to tell her and quick rest would follow. I texted her the next morning asking if we could grab a bite, just us two sometime that coming weekend, had something important to tell her, and that I missed her, which was true. I stupidly ended up worrying her with the way I worded this. She thought I was moving, however she was excited and told me she missed me too. She was free that night if I was down, and the day after next. I very much started to panic as it was sooner than anticipated, but that night really was the best time. I was still too embarrassed to show her the previous post in its entirety, but I was willing to do so if she doubted my intentions. To keep this brief, I'll spare the mushy details, but we met at her favorite tea shop, caught up for a while, then she actually outright asked me what I needed to tell her. It took me a bit to articulate everything since I was actively trying not to stutter like a dweeb, but I told her most of what I originally posted. I've had feelings for her even before the breakup, and just didn't know how to tell for so many reasons. I told her the important ones, but that she's always on my mind. I've always loved how kind, caring, thoughtful, dedicated, and just all around amazing on top of being so beautiful. She made me realize sacrificing my happiness to keep someone that hates me alive was unhealthy, that I deserved to be happy, and I was happiest with her. No one brightened my day like she did. She looked preciously stunned for a moment after I was done and was tearing up a bit at this point, but proceeded to tell me she's felt the same since we met and had a tiny feeling I liked her. However, she didn't think I'd be interested in dating her since we were such close friends, plus the toll my ex put on me meant I probably needed some time to recover, but she was just so happy I actually had the guts to tell her how I felt as she was never going to tell me, so we both kinda awkwardly laughed for a bit. We talked for a while more, and I was so overjoyed, relieved and super nervous, as the mood immediately shifted to something newly intimate, but I did end up asking to take her out on a real date whenever she was ready, as I did just lay a lot on her. Long story short, as a lot has happened since then, she's now currently my girlfriend, we're taking things super slow, our second date is in a few days, and I'm kicking myself for not telling her sooner. She hasn't mentioned her weight at all, and I will be 100% showing her the post if she ever does so. Now I'm really glad I didn't start off with that. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you for your feedback, encouragement, support, and couldn't have done it without you guys. Serious rock stars over here. DL, Doctor. I didn't bring up her weight when I told her my feelings. She's now my girlfriend, she has not brought up the topic, and if she ever does, I'll be showing her the previous post. Now on to story 2. My wife, 31F, is really struggling with our daughter's personality, and I'm at a loss for how to help her. So, I'm a 34-year-old guy with a 16-year-old stepdaughter. My wife is 31. Back in high school, my wife was the classic popular girl. Think pink hair, chunky blonde highlights, and all the cheerleading vibes from the mid-2000s. She had tons of friends, boyfriends, and was pretty much the star of her own cheesy teen movie. But then, at 15, she got pregnant and had her daughter. She never figured out who the dad was, and all the potential fathers disappeared long ago. Now, her daughter is 16. Honestly, I never wanted kids, they always seemed annoying to me. But I fell for my wife, and we got married when she was 20, and I was 23 after dating for a couple of years. I thought I could handle being around her kid. I never expected to actually enjoy being a dad to her, but my stepdaughter turned out to be different. She was quiet and a bit nerdy from a young age. I married her mom when she was just 5, and we hit it off instantly. We had our own little routine with daddy-daughter dates every weekend, played dolls, and I even let her paint my nails and do my makeup. I drove her to school in my cop car, and we rocked matching costumes for Halloween. Over the last couple of years, she's really leaned into a darker fashion vibe. I'm not sure what the exact subculture is, but she says she's channeling a horror game character mixed with a Monster High doll. Purple is her go-to color for this aesthetic blend, as she calls it. I might not fully understand it, maybe because I'm a guy in my 30s, but if it makes her happy, who am I to judge? She's into ghosts, tarot cards, vampires, zombies, aliens, and those creepy Victorian dolls. It's not my thing, but as long as she's enjoying herself, that's what matters. She's more of an introvert, preferring to game on her computer or dive into fantasy occult novels instead of hanging out with other teens. She has friends, so I'm not too concerned about her being a bit withdrawn. Plus, I'm relieved I don't have to drive her around since she's only got a learner's permit right now. My wife, on the other hand, is not a fan of this style. She always envisioned a more traditional girly girl for our daughter, think pinks, pastels, and flowers. She dreams of her having a boyfriend, being social, and even being a cheerleader like she was back in the day. I get it, every parent has their hopes for their kids, and it's natural to feel a bit let down when they don't fit that mold. My wife is always sneaking in and taking away my daughter's darker room decorations. She buys her pastel dresses, tells her to tone down the dark eye makeup, and even tries to set her up with the sporty types from school. Plus, she's pushing her to join cheerleading or volleyball for both school and summer activities. I could have handled all of that, honestly. But a few weeks back, I woke up to my wife finally reaching her limit. In the middle of the night, I heard her screaming, and it was like she was having a total breakdown. She was in tears, saying all she ever wanted was a typical daughter who loves pink, is a cheerleader, has a boyfriend, and will eventually give her grandkids. I had to pull her out of the hallway after half an hour of this chaos. I kept hoping it would end, but it just kept going. Meanwhile, my daughter was just standing there in the doorway, watching it all unfold. So, what triggered this meltdown? My daughter had dyed her hair purple over the blonde highlights my wife insisted on. And honestly, it wasn't even against the rules since we've both told her she can do whatever she wants with her hair, as long as she doesn't ruin too many towels. Weeks have passed, and my daughter is still not talking to her mom. My wife is still on her mission, but now it's like she's cranked it up to 11. Every day, she brings home some trendy pink or pastel outfit and tries to give it to my daughter. My daughter is getting really tired of it and just stays in her room all day. She even told me she can't wait for school to start again in a few weeks so she can escape the house and hang out with her friends. I'm feeling pretty lost right now. It's like I'm caught in a tough spot and I really don't want to take sides. I get that my wife is hoping for a daughter she can connect with and my daughter is looking for a mom who gets her. I'm just not sure what my role is in all of this. I could really use some guidance. It's been about a week since I last shared about my wife's breakdown over our daughter's fashion choices. A couple of nights after my last post, I decided to have a heart-to-heart with my wife. I asked her straight up what was bothering her. She kept saying she wanted a daughter who was more like her, but after some prodding, she finally opened up about what was really going on. It turns out my wife sees our daughter as her only chance to rebuild her family. She's not close with her siblings, her parents barely talk to her, and her high school friends disappeared after she had our child. She's longing for that family connection again and is hoping our daughter will grow up, find a nice guy, and give her grandkids. She mentioned she never brought up the idea of having more kids because she thought I wouldn't be on board. Honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about having more kids right now, especially not in this situation. So, my wife is in therapy to help her understand that our daughter isn't just a means to an end for her family dreams. She seems to be making progress, but it's still early days to see real change. 1. My daughter is also seeing a therapist. She's been in therapy since she was little because of bullying, but now her therapist is focusing on her meltdowns. Honestly, my daughter seems pretty chill about everything, just a bit annoyed, so I'm not sure if that's a good sign or not. I took her to Hot Topic to grab some back-to-school stuff and then we went out for a bite, just the two of us. She's still really looking forward to going back to school, she misses her friends and all her clubs. Things are looking up between my wife and daughter. They had a heart-to-heart and I was there for it. My wife apologized for being too pushy and my daughter took it well. She seems to be back to her usual self and I'm keeping an eye on them both. My wife is really trying to get into my daughter's interests. Last I heard, they were binge-watching some slasher show on Hulu together and it seems to be helping their bond. No hard feelings between them. I know things can change quickly, but for now, everything seems to be settling down nicely. I appreciate all the advice, both tough and gentle, that I got from my original post. It really hit home about how important it was to get them both help and encourage them to communicate.